Hi and welcome. I'm Andy Miocha and you're watching A News. Here are the headlines. Ukraine enters fourth year of its war with Russia. World leaders gather in Kyiv, in person and online. EU adopts new sanctions package against Russia, hitting key sectors of its economy. Conservatives win German elections. Their leader, Friedrich Merz, wants to form a coalition with the Social Democrats. Thank you for tuning in. As Ukraine entered the fourth year of its war with Russia, about a dozen leaders from Europe and Canada came to Kyiv to reaffirm their support for Ukraine. Among the gathered were presidents of the European Commission and the European Council, leaders of Canada, Denmark, Iceland, Latvia, Lithuania, Finland, Norway, Sweden and Spain, leaders of 11 other countries including Britain, Japan, Turkey and 8 European nations spoke via video link to the Support Ukraine Forum. There was no immediate sign of US presence at the event.
Dear friends, this year must become a year to mark the start of a real solid peace. Putin will not gift us this peace. He will not give it away in exchange for something. We must achieve peace through force, wisdom, and unity in our cooperation.
We must do everything in our power to enable Ukraine to secure a just and lasting peace, a peace that cannot be achieved without Ukrainians at the table. That is precisely what Canada is focused on.
The war in Ukraine remains the most central and consequential crisis for Europe's future. Putin is trying harder than ever to win the war on the ground. His goal remains Ukraine's capitulation, and we know what could happen next, because it has already happened before. It is not only the destiny of Ukraine that is at stake, it is Europe's destiny that is at stake.
If we now allow Russia to do what it wants to do, in other words, stop the existence of a Ukrainian state, then it's not only Ukraine that has lost, it's Europe that's lost, it's the West that has lost, and also the United States that has lost.
As Ukraine marks 3 years since the start of the Russian full-scale invasion, thousands have been killed and millions displaced. A clear path to peace is not yet in sight.
Light beams lit up the night sky above Lychakiv Cemetery in the western city of Lviv, as hundreds of people gathered to honor the victims of Ukraine's ongoing war with Russia. The large-scale installation, known as Lights of Memory, marked the 3rd anniversary of the conflict and paid tribute to fallen soldiers.
The most important task is to preserve people because people are the biggest value. And we are losing people now. Territories will be ours, I believe in that. The time will come for this.
Every year I've got less and less hope that we will return these territories within our border declared in 1991. With every passing day, we lose hope and faith. Given what is going on with the US support and European support, we are losing faith.
The somber display served as a poignant reminder of the human toll the war has taken as Ukraine continues to grapple with the devastating impact of the prolonged conflict. On February 24, 2022, Russian forces launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine, crossing its borders from multiple directions, including from Belarus, which allowed Russia to stage part of the invasion from its territory. Since the war started, Ukrainian officials report over 45,000 military deaths and around 390,000 injuries. Civilian casualties are also high, with thousands killed and millions displaced by the ongoing violence. Estimates suggest that Russian casualties are likely higher than those officially reported by Moscow, indicating heavy losses on both sides. In response to the invasion, international efforts have included extensive sanctions against Russia and military aid to Ukraine from NATO, the European Union, and countries like the United States. This support aims to strengthen Ukraine's defence capabilities and deter further Russian advances. Diplomatic attempts to reach a peace deal have largely stalled, with Ukraine demanding the full restoration of its territorial integrity, including Crimea and the occupied eastern regions. Russia maintains control over significant areas, and there is little sign of an immediate resolution to the conflict. Military operations continue in key regions, and shifting international support, particularly from the US and Europe, adds complexity to Ukraine's military situation. The future remains uncertain, with ongoing discussions about potential peace negotiations and military developments.
Thousands of people around the world rallied in support of Ukraine. Gatherings across several continents called for peace.
Over the weekend, protests erupted globally, with people showing their support for Ukraine and calling for peace, marking the 3-year anniversary of the war. The demonstrations come amid peace talks between US and Russia. They also follow remarks from US President Donald Trump, calling Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky a dictator. Zelensky says that Trump is surrounded by disinformation. In Canada, hundreds gathered in Toronto at Nathan Phillips Square, demanding justice for the country.
I feel there's a lot of misinformation. I think there was a lot of promises by Donald Trump to resolve situations, and I agree negotiations need to happen, but it has to be on a level, even playing field where all parties are involved in discussion.
In Taipei, dozens of Ukrainians and activists gathered outside the Russian representative office.
It's not Russian war against Ukraine. This is freedom war. Ukrainians fighting for freedom, for our values, for democracy. I believe that we fight not only for Ukraine. I believe we fight for something more than territory. We fight for our vision. We fight for freedom.
In the UK, around 3,000 protesters marched in London to Russia's embassy, waving Ukrainian, British and European flags.
I think in general people have to show that they support Ukraine and carry on supporting Ukraine irrespective of what Trump says. I think there's a lot of support in the US for Ukraine as well. I don't think it's just purely in the UK. And I think people have to show the support publicly. They have to get out. They have to actually do something.
In Greece, hundreds of demonstrators in Athens voiced frustration over peace talks between Washington and Moscow, with Ukrainians calling for their inclusion in the discussions.
From an acknowledgement that we were victims, now we don't even know what we are. They accuse us, I don't even know what for, and we are afraid that they will make a supposed peace without us.
Thousands gathered in Paris, marching through the French city, urging continued support for Ukraine and condemning Russian aggression.
The Ukrainians have to keep up their fight because there's a lot at stake, not just our families who are there, but also the state itself. But even Europe has a lot at stake in this war, which could get stuck and get out of hand. So this union that is expected from all sides, from all people, is important.
There was a show of solidarity in Naples in Italy, with people chanting for peace and calling for justice for those affected by the conflict. European buildings in Brussels were lit up in the colours of the Ukrainian flag as thousands gathered to mark the anniversary of the invasion. Similar rallies took place in Washington, Luxembourg and Istanbul, with demonstrators voicing their opposition to what they're saying is Russia's aggression and insisting on peace talks that include Ukraine at the table.
The UN General Assembly has passed a resolution condemning Russia's invasion of Ukraine, co-sponsored by Kyiv and EU nations, despite the United States voting against it. The resolution passed with 93 votes in favor. The US and Russia were 2 of 18 votes against, while China abstained along with 64 other countries. Separately, the United States was forced to abstain in a vote on a resolution Washington drafted to mark the 3rd anniversary of the war in Ukraine after the 193-member body agreed to amendments proposed by European states that added references to the full-scale invasion of Ukraine by Russia. That amended resolution was also passed with 93 votes for. Turkey said it was ready to host possible talks between Ukraine and Russia and would support any initiative leading to peace, following a visit to Ankara by Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov.
The meeting in Ankara marked the 3rd anniversary of the war in Ukraine, with Russian and Turkish foreign ministers discussing diplomatic efforts to end the conflict. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov and his Turkish counterpart Hakan Fidan focused on ceasefire negotiations, the possibility of hosting peace talks and ensuring safe navigation in the Black Sea. During the press conference, Lavrov criticised Ukraine and European countries for frequently shifting their positions, while stating that the US stance has remained unchanged.
Знаете, я могу только нашу позицию подтвердить.
You know, I can only reaffirm our stance because it has never changed, contrary to the stance of the character whom you mentioned. He changes his stance more often than his green t-shirts. It is also hard to understand the stance of the European countries, because it is quite unstable, and changes depending on whatever ideas they produce. The stance of the United States comes prominent on this background. It remains steadfast, it does not call for an immediate truce, leave the line of contact as it is, and then start thinking what to do next. We have always stressed that this option is unacceptable for us.
Turkey reaffirmed its commitment to mediating peace efforts. Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan said Ankara is ready to facilitate negotiations and continues its efforts to secure safe passage in the Black Sea, which has been affected by the conflict.
Today, as the war enters its 3rd year, there is an initiative launched by the US that aims to end the war through negotiations. This situation coincides with the policy we have been following since the beginning of the war. We believe a solution can be reached through negotiations. We are ready to provide all kinds of support and host talks. We will also continue our efforts to ensure navigational safety in the Black Sea.
As the conflict continues, Ukraine faces increasing uncertainty on the battlefield, while diplomatic efforts seek a path toward peace.
Ukrainian Deputy Prime Minister Olha Stefanishyna has said that Ukrainian and American teams are at the final stage of negotiations on the agreement on Ukrainian minerals. In a post on the X social media, Stefanishyna said the negotiations have been very constructive, with nearly all key details finalized. She expressed hope that the leaders of the US and Ukraine might sign the deal and endorse it in Washington the soonest, to, quote, showcase their commitment for decades to come. The European Union has approved its 16th package of sanctions against Russia. The latest package hits Russia's energy, trade, transport, infrastructure and financial services. EU's foreign policy chief Kaja Kallas said that the latest round of restrictions hits everything from shadow fleet ships to gaming controllers used to control drones. Kallas said that the EU now has the most extensive sanctions ever, weakening Russia's war effort. Conservatives won the elections in Germany, with their leader Friedrich Merz poised to become the next chancellor. Speaking to supporters and media in Berlin, Merz said that he wants to enter coalition talks with the Social Democrats of outgoing Chancellor Olaf Scholz. He added that talks will start in the next few days and last several weeks.
Germany's opposition conservative bloc, the Christian Democratic Union, emerged victorious in Sunday's national election, securing nearly 30% of the vote. With this result, CDU leader Friedrich Merz is set to become Germany's next chancellor. Addressing supporters in Berlin, Merz pledged to form a stable and effective government.
But now we're going to talk to each other, and the main thing is to create a government in Germany that can act as quickly as possible with a good parliamentary majority. Because, dear friends, the world out there is not waiting for us.
Meanwhile, the far-right Alternative for Germany made unprecedented gains, finishing in second place with nearly 20% of the votes, nearly doubling its previous election results.
We have gained 100%, and that is something you have to achieve in the first place. We are now the political middle, and you can see who is on the outskirts behind us. The parties we have overtaken.
Despite its surge, the AfD remains politically isolated. All major parties have ruled out forming a coalition with them. However, AfD leaders claim the election signals a shift in public sentiment on key issues such as migration and economic policies.
The issues are talking points about migration and the economy. These are the issues people want to have solved. What people voted for is a shift in the political direction of Germany.
However, the election dealt a severe blow to Chancellor Olaf Scholz's Social Democratic Party, which suffered its worst results since World War II, earning only 16.2% of the vote. Defense Minister Boris Pistorius called the outcome catastrophic. As coalition negotiations begin, Germany faces a complex political landscape. The CDU, together with the Christian Social Union of Bavaria, will seek partners to secure a parliamentary majority. But divisions remain over key issues such as migration, economic policy, and Germany's role in Europe. The coming weeks will determine whether Merz can swiftly form a government, or if prolonged negotiations will delay Germany's next administration.
Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban has escalated criticism of the use of USAID funds, calling it a tool of a, quote, liberal globalist empire that threatens national sovereignty. Orban praised Donald Trump for reducing USAID operations and vowed to prevent similar influences in Europe. Under Trump's America First policy, most USAID staff were put on leave and 1,600 jobs were cut, halting many foreign aid programs and alarming international organizations.
USAID was the heart of a robust financial and power machine. A monster created to crush, crumble, and erode the freedom and independence of nations so that the liberal globalist empire could thrive. President Donald Trump drove a stake through the heart of the empire. Now it's our turn in Europe to finish the job.
Pakistan's Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif arrived in Baku for a two-day visit and met with Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev. Several agreements and memorandums were signed, and Aliyev announced that Azerbaijan is ready to invest a minimum of $2 billion in Pakistan.
Prime Minister of Pakistan, Mohammad Shehbaz Sharif, arrived in Azerbaijan for a state visit, marking a significant step in the growing strategic partnership between the two nations. The visit began with an official welcoming ceremony, where President Ilham Aliyev received the Pakistani leader. The event, held in a square adorned with the national flags of both countries, featured an honorary guard and the playing of the national anthems. Later, a one-on-one meeting was held between the President of Azerbaijan, Ilham Aliyev, and the Prime Minister of Pakistan, Mohammad Shehbaz Sharif. President Ilham Aliyev and Prime Minister Mohammad Shehbaz Sharif made statements to the press. A document exchange ceremony took place between the two countries. A memorandum of understanding was exchanged between the state oil company of Azerbaijan SOCAR and Frontier Works Organization, Pakistan State Oil Company Limited, and Pakistan Refinery Limited. Additionally, a memorandum of understanding was exchanged between SOCAR Trading SA and Pakistan's Pakistan State Oil Company Limited, as well as a long-term oil product purchase and sale agreement between SOCAR Trading SA and Pakistan State Oil Company Limited. Furthermore, a memorandum of understanding on cooperation in culture, tourism, urban planning, education, science, economy, and other relevant fields between the city of Nakhchivan of the Nakhchivan Autonomous Republic of Azerbaijan and the city of Lahore of the Punjab province of Pakistan was signed. As part of the visit, Azerbaijan and Pakistan have also signed multiple agreements to enhance bilateral cooperation across various sectors. Key deals include an MOU on electronic customs data exchange, an agreement on plant quarantine and protection, and a cooperation pact in agriculture. Additionally, both nations committed to environmental protection, scientific research, and vocational education partnerships, further strengthening their strategic ties. A broader meeting was also held between the President of Azerbaijan, Ilham Aliyev, and the Prime Minister of the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, Mohammad Shehbaz Sharif.
I officially announced that Azerbaijan is ready to invest minimum $2 billion in different projects in Pakistan. We already got the list of these projects relatively recently, and our teams are evaluating. So we put with my brother a target of 1 month to finalize everything and to give us a report on that. Our relations really have importance not only for our peoples, but also for the regions we represent. I think these brotherly ties between Pakistan and Azerbaijan is a good example of partnership between two brotherly Muslim countries.
Your last visit to Pakistan strengthened our bilateral relations immensely, and the people of Pakistan were hugely inspired and happy on your visit, and I think the people of Azerbaijan and the people of Pakistan, their hearts beat together. And I say this with all sincerity at my command. And you have been always a great friend of Pakistan. You love people of Pakistan.
Later, the President of Azerbaijan and the Prime Minister of Pakistan participated in the Azerbaijan-Pakistan Business Forum held in Baku.
For an analysis of the visit and its significance, we spoke to Sultan Zahidov, leading consultant at the Baku-based Center of Analysis of International Relations. Here's what he had to say.
Azerbaijan and Pakistan enjoy a long-standing bond of brotherhood and cordial relationship underpinned by the shared values and common aspirations. The relationship between the two states has developed tremendously since the early 1990s, and since that time, both countries have decided to widen their cooperation, which now includes such spheres as trade, economy, investments, energy, connectivity, and defense. The dynamic of the mutual visits in the last couple of years once again signifies the high level of relationship between Azerbaijan and Pakistan. The recent visit of Pakistani Prime Minister Mohammad Shehbaz Sharif is another indicator of high level of relationship between the two states. This visit underscores the commitment of both countries to deepening bilateral ties, to enhancing economic cooperation and fostering regional collaboration.
On the visit of the Pakistani Prime Minister to Azerbaijan and the ties of the two countries, A News also spoke to Hamza Ajar Salam, editor of the Pakistan Daily, and Sheraz Mahmoud Khan, a researcher at the Western Caspian University.
The Prime Minister of Pakistan, Mohammad Shehbaz Sharif, and his delegation had a very productive two-day visit to Baku. Today, he was received by President of Azerbaijan, Ilham Aliyev, in the presidential palace, where the two sides agreed that Azerbaijan would invest $2 billion in Pakistan, and the agreements would be finalized in April. In April of this year, the Azerbaijani delegation will travel to Pakistan, where all of these agreements will be finalized. Already, we have seen Azerbaijani state-owned company Sokar extend the LNG agreement by 2 years. This visit has been extremely successful in terms of bilateral ties, and the people of Pakistan await to welcome the Azerbaijani delegation in April.
The relationship of Pakistan and Azerbaijan is witnessed with the mutual respect and of strategic interest as well. That's why, as Prime Minister of Pakistan, Shehbaz Sharif has visited Azerbaijan yesterday. Last year, President Ilham Aliyev, the president of Azerbaijan, visited Pakistan in July 2024 and of course signed 15 memorandum of understanding, and those memorandum of understanding were of trade, defense, and cultural exchange. So these governments have laid the groundwork to strengthen ties, but it also cements Pakistan's position as a reliable defense partner and of course a defense partner in the region. The exchange of military expertise, training programs, and military joint drills also solidify the relationship and contribute to regional security and stability. So both of the countries are looking for more cooperation in every aspect possible.
Staying in the South Caucasus region, Georgia's media landscape is at a crossroads as the parliament speaker unveiled the controversial media bill. Our Nini Nikolaishvili has more on that in Tbilisi.
Georgia is moving forward with new media regulations as Parliament Speaker Shalva Papuashvili unveils what is referred to by some as British-styled media law today. The government states that this will strengthen journalistic standards, while critics fear that this will further tighten government's control over the independent media. Despite ongoing protests and rising tensions, the government remains defiant. Shalva Papuashvili dismissed critics, saying that those who object to the law should take their concerns to the UK, as the law is modeled after the British standards. Furthermore, at a time when EU remains critical to Georgia's political trajectory and criticizes Tbilisi for what they describe to be democratic backsliding, Georgian Dream is pushing for foreign agent style law, what they describe to be modeled after the US FARA. These developments illustrate the highly complex nature of Georgia's political landscape and diplomatic difficulties of relations between Tbilisi and other European capitals. I'm Nina Nikolaishvili reporting from Tbilisi, News.
One of Azerbaijan's main water sources, the Araz River, has been facing ecological problems for years. Various media reports and investigations highlight the growing dangers to local public health and the region's ecosystem due to industrial and mining waste being discharged into the river from Armenia.
The Araz River, a vital water source flowing through Iran, Azerbaijan and Armenia, is now at the center of a major environmental dispute. Iran is preparing to use this river to supply drinking water to Tabriz and nearby cities. But alarming reports suggest the water may be contaminated with heavy metals, raising serious health concerns. A recent investigation by Iranian environmental media reveals that pollution in the Araz has been a concern for over 15 years. Official documents indicate that heavy metals such as lead, arsenic and molybdenum have been detected in the river, elements linked to industrial waste. Iran's Minister of Energy says the 135-kilometer pipeline project to supply drinking water to 2.5 million people. But opposition is growing. Lawmakers and environmental groups are urging authorities to conduct more thorough water safety assessments before moving forward. Experts warn that Armenia's power plants and mining operations are releasing hazardous chemicals into the river. A 2022 study by Iran's Chamber of Commerce even linked pollution to Armenia's Metsamor nuclear power plant, raising concerns about potential radioactive contamination. The Iranian government insists it is in talks with Armenia about pollution issues, but so far no major steps have been taken to clean the river. Last year, Iran and Armenia signed an agreement to clean up the Araz River within a year, but so far, little progress has been made. Environmentalists warn that if urgent steps are not taken, the damage to the river's ecosystem could become irreversible, posing a major threat to water security in the region.
Over in Spain, unseasonably warm temperatures have led to an early blossom of almond trees. Officials are blaming the phenomena on climate change.
Almond trees in northeastern Spain started to bloom in late January, roughly 3 weeks earlier than usually expected. Officials of the country believe that it is due to unseasonably warm temperatures caused by climate change.
Climate change directly affects the progress of flowering. We have had several decades of intense winters with cold and fog, with winters that are practically spring-like. This year, for example, we could perhaps count the days that have been frosty with the fingers of one hand.
Spain is one of the world's largest producers of almonds, known for both sweet and bitter varieties. The country's Mediterranean climate, warm, dry summers and mild winters, provides the perfect conditions for almond trees to thrive. Typically, almond trees begin to bloom in early spring, with their white or pink blossoms appearing in February or March. These beautiful flowers signal the start of the growing season, often before the trees even have leaves. Despite the early bloom, many locals and tourists are taking advantage of the situation, flocking to almond tree fields to capture the beauty of the flowers.
So happy when I see all the flowers and the bees and the insects and the trees. That's what we hear.
This year marks the second earliest bloom on record since 1981. As climate change continues to impact agriculture, events like this may become more common, reshaping the future of farming in many countries along with Spain.
Well, that's all we have for you for now. Thank you for watching, but don't go anywhere. Coming up, special coverage of the 3rd anniversary of the war in Ukraine.